Thank you so much for joining us here today. It's an honor to have our community join for such an important discussion, which is our school reopening. And today we have a very special guest that will he's also going to be sharing a little bit of insight as to what we're doing at the state level. And so today you're here with me. I'm your state senator, Susan Rubio. I represent the 22nd Senate District in the San Gabriel Valley, but I'm also a former educator. And that is why this topic is so important to me. I spent 17 years in the classroom, and I also was in the administrative side for 3 years. So I understand firsthand how hard our teachers work every single day on a normal year. And I also do understand the anxiety our families are going through. And so I wanted to give our community an opportunity to ask questions as it pertains to the reopening of schools, strategies on how to handle your children that are currently going through some anxiety. And I know parents themselves have called me and they're dealing with emotional distress as well. So we're hopeful that you can walk away with some insights, some strategies, and perhaps we can answer your questions. I wanted to just add that we have a lot of questions that were asked today, but some of them are district specific. California is very diverse and a lot of school districts make their own decisions. So if I don't get to your question, we will make sure that our staff reaches out to you to handle that specific question for you. And again, because of time constraints, we want to be able to get to everyone. And if we don't, please be assured that we will give you that opportunity. So today, the goal of this presentation is to ensure that we give parents, teachers, and staff strategies on how to deal with the reopening of schools. And we have a very special guest here with us today, who I have the pleasure of knowing for several years, but I want to take this opportunity to thank our next guest for being responsible for taking care of so many of our students. He was able to donate 1,000 Chromebooks and hotspots to our community. So I will introduce him right now, but I want to just say thank you to our superintendent, Tony Thurman, for everything you've done for our communities. So it is my pleasure to introduce the state superintendent, Tony Thurman, who is an educator, a social worker, a public school parent, who has served the people of California for more than 10 years in various elected offices, formerly a state senator, an assembly member. Locally, Superintendent Thurman has been a great partner in helping our residents in the San Gabriel Valley. As I stated before, all I had to do was make a phone call, and he was eager to help us. So again, thank you for your generosity. A lot of our most disadvantaged students were able to benefit from the Chromebooks that you gave us. And just recently, he also was able to donate 33,000 masks to our community. So I do appreciate the partnership. I appreciate your love for education. And as a parent, you also understand firsthand what our parents are going through. And so without further ado, I want to give you the floor. Once again, thank you so much for your time, as I know you're very busy, and the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Senator. It's an honor to be in the 22nd District virtually. Thank you for your passion for education. Thank you for your passion for meeting the needs of your constituents. I know you work long hours and several days because you care deeply about what the people of the 22nd District need, and I want them to know they have a great senator in you. So thank you. Again, I just want to commend our students and families and our educators. This is a difficult time. There's been incredible resilience from everyone. None of us have ever lived through a pandemic before, and I think it's the hardest experience that most of us will experience in our lifetime. We've lost family members and loved ones, so many who've been impacted by having COVID-19. It's been a very tough time. On top of COVID-19, there have been fires and natural disasters, and we've watched acts of hate and racism throughout our nation. The killing of George Floyd, violence against Asian American and Pacific Islanders. We've watched as many children who've come across the border have been met with hostility, who've been mistreated. There's so many challenges that we're facing in this moment. But I believe that we are more than the sum of our circumstances. We are a resilient people, and we will find a way to move forward. And as a system, I'm so proud of everyone, educators who've been leaning in to make sure that kids could be safe and still get an education. I'm amazed at what I'm seeing, that right now 9,000 of our 10,000 schools have found a way to reopen for in-person instruction or will shortly. People have utilized every resource that we can make available, and I want us to do all that we can. Obviously, this was not the way education was meant to be delivered, right? In all your years of experience, Senator, I'm sure no one's ever asked us to have our entire nation trying to learn through a remote kind of connection. And what this experience taught us is that our system was not ready to serve even the digital needs of our students. We still have 1 million students in this state who may not have access to high-speed internet. We've got a ton of work that we need to do. And we knew that there were learning gaps before the pandemic. We've been working to close the achievement gaps since before the pandemic. We know that they've been exacerbated since the pandemic. I want to just pivot and say, in spite of all those challenges, a lot of great things have happened. California has surpassed more than 22 million vaccine doses delivered. This past week, last week, we had a wonderful Zoom with folks like Dolores Huerta and others, and a chance to talk about how important it is to have vaccines in the Latinx community. This week, we're doing a similar webinar on the importance of vaccines in the African-American community. I know that you, Senator, have been one of those championing, making sure there's equity in how the vaccines get distributed. We now have had more than 400,000 educators get a vaccine. We have rapid COVID tests that any school district can get for free. We've secured 5 million rapid COVID tests. You get results in 15 minutes. And that means you can know if someone is positive, they can be quarantined so the rest of the school community can continue safely. We've sent grants to districts to address implicit bias, to close equity gaps. And of course, Senator, I want to thank you and your colleagues for AB 86, $6.5 billion to give schools what they need to get open, whether that's COVID tests or staffing issues, having resources to offset learning gaps. So many great things happening. I want to thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the invitation to be on this town hall. Let's just say I'll put a pin in it for now and see what questions the folks in the 22nd have. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much for that. And yes, we've learned a lot of patience through this, process. I know that, my staff has been very diligent when it comes to issues of the unemployment checks and so many things that normally are not things that we handle, but our offices are always willing and able to help whenever we can. But it really has taught us a lot of patience. So to all the parents out there and teachers, administrators, we thank you for your patience as we navigated the pandemic. It is something new to us. No one, and at least not in our lifetimes, we've dealt with such a crisis. But right now, I do have a couple of questions. So I'm going to ask the superintendent, see how best we can answer these questions. They're pretty general. One of them is, will the state require all school staff to be vaccinated and tested so my children feel safe?
Thanks, Senator. At the moment, there is not a requirement from the state to have a vaccine. What we do know is that right now, anyone over 50 can get a vaccine in California. And as of this week on Wednesday, anyone 16 and older will be able to get a vaccine. And we're happy to help if anyone's looking for information about how to get vaccines. We've worked through the community clinics, and, that's where I got my vaccine. I was really pleased to get my vaccine at Ultimed and to work in a community clinic. And I just want to say, for anybody who's worried, it did not hurt. It was quick, it was easy, and, side effects were minimal. And I just want to say that it really is something that I encourage everyone to do. Now, there's a lot of questions about whether or not students younger than 16 will get the vaccine. Right now, the FDA and the CDC are still deciding, they're still studying and determining whether or not they're going to allow the vaccine manufacturers to make it available to children younger than 16, perhaps as young as 12. We're monitoring that. And as soon as we know, then we'll be in a position to see if vaccines will be made available to those younger than 16. But for now, it's as of this Wednesday, everyone, well, I should say as of April 15th, it will be for everyone age 16 and older.
Thank you for that. I do have a question that came in. And again, we know it's not an exact science, but if you can give us your perspective, when do you anticipate children returning to school 100% as it was pre-COVID? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm trying to figure out how to answer the part about before it was COVID. I'm not sure that we're ever going to see it exactly the same as it was before COVID. I think things will get better. But, with all these variants that they're talking about, many of the experts that I've talked to, and I've asked people who are epidemiologists who understand, things like COVID, they've said that we probably are going to be wearing masks for a long time. They've said that we're going to have to continue to have social distancing for a long time. Now, I think it is possible that by the fall, we may see that most schools are in-person instruction and pretty much 5 days a week. I think that is certainly possible. Everything that we have seen suggests that. And the governor announced last week that he hopes to be able to relax all of these tiers that we've had, the purple tiers and the red and the orange tiers that talk about our rate of COVID infection. He has said that he'd like to retire that entire system by June. That means if everything goes according to plan, that we could retire that system. And that means that we could expect school to be in person for the most part, every day back in the fall. But there has been no mandate. It's just really an expectation. And so the way that we can retire those tiers is, again, for everybody to keep wearing a mask, even if you've gotten your vaccine. So important to continue wearing a mask and I think we can control our own destiny. And I don't want California to be like Michigan right now and other states that have seen these major spikes in COVID cases. It's sad to see. There are states like Texas and Utah and other places. They're saying you don't even have to wear a mask anymore. I'm sad. That means that we're going to see people get hurt. And so I believe in California, if we do the right things, we could find ourselves in a place where we have in-person instruction for anyone who wants it 5 days a week when we get back in the fall.
Thank you for that. And we all have to have just a little bit more patience. I know I just started with that statement earlier, but I know that our youth is getting a little impatient, and we've seen a lot of the videos and pictures of spring break and our youth gathering. And even as adults, we're struggling. But, we ask your patience a little bit more. I certainly don't want to go backwards. And I know that we have places like Michigan, as stated, that are really struggling to get a handle on this new variant. So we just ask, again, to be mindful of your neighbors. So I'm going to move on to the next question and see if we can answer this question. Given the advances in vaccinations, do you have any sense of graduations? Are there any recommendations for high schools as it pertains to this next graduation season, even if it's outside?
Well, I'm a parent. I've got a high school senior, who until recently was facing the possibility of not being able to have a graduation. And my heart breaks for all the students who this year and last year went without all the things that I think about. When I think about high school, I remember extracurricular activities and sports. I mean, I was all about that. Those things motivated me to want to come to school. I think about kids not being able to go to their prom and graduation. I don't know what I would have done if I had to have a drive-up graduation where you get out, you get cheered, and you jump back in your car. But because things have gotten better, because the conditions have gotten better in California, the state health agencies have said that graduations can take place. Outdoor graduations can take place. And now every school district will set their own rules on how that will be. Now, they're going to want to still limit the numbers of people who participate. But that means that every student can still have their moment to be celebrated for their accomplishment. And so we're in a better place than we were just a few months ago. And I think you said it really well, Senator. A little bit of patience will get us a little bit closer to feeling a little bit like things are normal. They may never be exactly the way they were before, but we can get closer every single day if we're patient and we do the things that we know that keep us all safe.
Thank you for that. And I know personally as a teacher, I can share that that was the highlight of our year, every year watching our students graduate, put on their cap and gowns. And so, I also miss attending, which is, an invitation that we always get as legislators to attend. So hopefully we could get there sooner rather than later. So thank you for that answer. So I have one more question for you, and that is, what kind of oversight is in place, or are there any recommendations to monitor the progress in the curriculum as it pertains to the learning loss? Is there anything in place, tutoring programs?
Yes. One of the things that I would say, many of the things that we think can make a difference to offset any of the kind of learning gaps that students have experienced is tutoring. We think there should be a lot of tutoring. Training for our educators. Training is important. A lot of folks are planning to use summer school as some time for some makeup, enrichment, our after-school programs. All of these areas give us a chance to do what we call accelerate learning, help our students make up some of what they may have lost. And so these are tremendous opportunities. I want to be clear that what each school district will do is up to each of the local school districts. As you know, Senator, we have more than 1,000 school districts in the area, and each of them has their own elected board that makes the decisions about the curriculum, the program. Will there be summer school? How long will it be? And so there's no one size fits all coming from the state. And so each district will make its own decisions. But we're working with every district to make sure that they have some programs to offset those learning gaps. And research tells us that the things that are the most powerful are tutoring programs, working through after school programs, if you can, a longer school day or extending the school year, providing training to teachers. And this can all be done. We can achieve, we've had to sacrifice to keep students and families safe, but that doesn't mean that they cannot learn. And some of our students have thrived during distance learning. We just know that many have had struggles. And I think a lot of that goes back to, we started this without everybody having a computer and high-speed internet. Shame on our nation that we allow kids in a nation as wealthy as ours to go without computers. We're going to make a change. I've created this task force to close the digital divide, and we've been able to get all the internet companies to give low-cost internet. If any of your constituents want access to it, Senator, let us know how we can help. We've also asked them to have hotline workers who will give information. They've got folks who can speak Spanish. We don't want anybody having to jump through any hoops. They can get internet for $10 a month, and we want to make sure that they get access to it. I want to see that we're never in this position again, and that once and for all, we close the digital divide. I even went out and raised $1 million to do this thing that we call an innovation challenge. It means that we know that Californians are entrepreneurial and innovative, and that right now someone's listening to this program and they have an idea on how to get internet all across this state, how to get broadband all across the state. Whoever has that wonderful idea, we want to hear from you. You can win that $1 million in the innovation challenge. I know Norma's got an idea. I can tell. Norma Macias is smiling like, that's my million. Or maybe it's Jennifer, or maybe it's you, Senator. Anybody, we should never again allow our young people to be without access to the tools that they need. And one of my hopes is that we will use this challenging time to put a spotlight to things that were gaps before, and to make sure that there are never gaps for our kids again.
Well, thank you so much for caring for our students and our communities. As a matter of fact, I was in our committee earlier today, and we voted on a measure for it's broadband for all. It's still going through the process. Clearly, not only our school districts and our leaders back home are thinking about this, but as legislators, that's something that really has, there's a big spotlight on this. I currently have a bill as it pertains to learning loss. I'm exploring a statewide tutoring program, and that's SB 723. I also know as an educator that once a child falls behind, it's very difficult to be able to get them caught up during the school hours. So I wanted to see if we can put something in place after school, but don't want to get ahead of myself. It still has to go through the process and be voted on. But once again, Superintendent, thank you for your generosity. Without all the Chromebooks you provided, the hotspots early on, our students would have had a greater challenge. And so we were able to supply those to, I believe, 6 of our school districts where the need was. And there was quite a bit of need. So I think it's something that we all have to be mindful of. Earlier today, I called it a pandemic within a pandemic as it pertains to the digital divide. And I know it may seem insensitive to compare, but I do know that if we don't tackle this issue, that is going to determine whether or not our children succeed in the future, whether or not they're able to compete globally. And so we definitely need to tackle that. But I won't take any more of your time. I just want to commend you for the work that you're doing for our state. And, the pandemic also fell on your lap, and you had to deal with the closure of schools, putting policies in place. And and you really were a rock star to all of us. So I want to thank you for your time. And again, come anytime you want to visit. Once again, we're happy to have you. And to everyone listening out there, please reach out to his office if you have any further questions or mine. We're happy to continue the conversation. So thank you so very much. So we are going to move on to our second panel and second section of this program. Our next session will be with Mrs. Norma Macias, who has served as the Director of Facilities, Maintenance, Operations, and Transportation at Almonte Union High School District for the past 4 years. Mrs. Macias has over 15 years of experience as a project manager, overseeing various construction projects in the public and private sector. Mrs. Macias has a Master's of Architecture degree from the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. She will also be overseeing the implementation of Measure HS, a $100 million bond, which was approved by the voters in November of 2018. And she will give us a little bit of insight into the school districts and what they're doing to keep us safe. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Senator Rubio. It's a pleasure to be here. It's so great to see you. You look fabulous, younger than the last time I saw you. So thank you so much for having me. I do have a brief PowerPoint that I can share, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Is anybody handling the PowerPoint? Oh, there we go. Thank you.
There it is. So again, thank you so much. Been very fortunate to count on the leadership of my superintendent, Dr. Edward Zuniga, who put together a very large task force. And as you can see, we established a task force made up of the following committees: instruction, safety and health, social and emotional support, family and community engagement, and operations. And I currently head up the operations component of the task force. We have been meeting since the pandemic started. Initially, we were meeting on a weekly basis. Then we transitioned to a couple of times a month, and now we're meeting as frequently as once a month, as sometimes twice a month. It just depends on updates as we're receiving them. So I am going to have to sort of move the screen so I can read this here. Under the operations committee, we've been focusing on all of the facilities needs as well as transportation and nutrition services. But for purposes of the presentation this evening, I focused some of the measures that we've been taking on the facilities end. So the first thing we did is we established check-in locations at each of the school sites. So we have temperature readers. When visitors, staff come to the site, they're asked a series of questions. For example, if they've been exposed to anyone with COVID, once they answer these questions, we take their temperature and then we allow them on site depending on if they've answered the questions properly. We have also installed sanitizing stations throughout the campuses. We know how important that has been, and our auditoriums team actually went through the effort of building and constructing these. So we installed quite a few at each of the sites. And as the facilities director, I knew we were going to really need to get a good count of how many students we would be able to accommodate in each of the classrooms. So early on, what we did was we established an occupancy count. We walked through each of the classrooms. We separated desks. Initially, we were obviously told 6-foot separation. Now the guidelines have been revised to 3 feet. So we'll be looking at adjusting our guidelines. But what we did was we went through each of the school sites, we listed the classrooms, we identified the number of students we could safely accommodate, providing that 6-foot separation. We also installed signage throughout the campuses, directing the flow of traffic, maintaining 6-foot distancing. We actually developed site plans showing the direction of traffic so that we could limit when students are walking through campus as they transition from each of the classrooms, the direction that they'd be going so that they're not running into each other. As well as a big focus for us has been in establishing cleaning and disinfecting guidelines for our custodial team. We've recently welcomed back many of our students for athletic activities. And so one of the measures we've implemented is cleaning and disinfecting the classrooms on an hourly basis. And we have a checklist that they go through and sign off when they've completed cleaning them, as well as when they've completed cleaning the classrooms, we post a sign that states this classroom has been cleaned. And lastly, in addition to going through and changing our air filters to the maximum filtration possible, such as MERV 13, we have been we're in the process of installing Air Guardians, which is a pure air shield that provides continuous disinfection of air in the classrooms. So these devices, we've procured $500,000 in total, have been installed at all of our high schools. The majority of classrooms will have these installed. So what the Air Guardian does is it has a series of fans that draw in the air through UV lights. All the pathogens, 99% of the pathogens are killed, and recirculates the air back into the classrooms. So we have continuous disinfection that is going on throughout the day. And so what I wanted to do is just share a few images of some of the things. So this is at Rosemead High School. As you can see, when you walk there, there is a sign that says temperature check. And as you walk in, you'll sign in, you're asked a series of questions, they take your temperature. And what we did was this is a typical classroom. We obviously removed some furniture, but we spaced out the desks so that there is a minimum of a 6-foot separation between the students. And to the right, you'll see a picture of one of these Air Guardian units installed in our ceiling. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that very comprehensive PowerPoint. I know I haven't been in a classroom in a long time, and when the CDC guidelines came around, I was wondering how we were going to make it happen, but clearly we have figured it out, as we discussed earlier. A lot of patience, a lot of navigating, by trial and error, but now we've gotten to a good place. I've heard from many school districts, and they're well underway. They figured out how to keep things safe. And for parents that worry, it's not off-base to call your school district and find out what they're doing. If you're still concerned that they may have some deficiencies, they're happy to talk to you. Everyone's working hard for the same purpose, and that's to keep our students safe. So in this session, I'm also going to introduce another individual that will speak to on behalf of teachers. After we're done with her presentation, they will engage in a Q&A for Mrs. Norma Macias as well as Mrs. Barone. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. So Mrs. Jennifer Barone is a teacher with the Azusa Unified School District. She received her bachelor's degree from Cal Poly Pomona in liberal studies and her master's degree from the University of La Verne in bilingual education and special education. She has been an educator for 31 years, teaching the following grades: 1st, 4th, 6th, and high school, and 6th through 8th special education. Thank you for that. I know that, again, as administrator, I know how hard, you work in that regard. And also thank you for joining us today. You've also taught adult education in the evenings for 5 years. Mrs. Barone is a health and fitness instructor for Azusa Pacific University and has taught there for 9 years as well. She worked as a mentor teacher for 4 years for Azusa Unified School District and has received Teacher of the Year and honorary awards for excellence from Azusa Unified School District. Thank you so much. First of all, I graduated Massachusetts Pacific University, so that's my alma mater. But thank you for being here. And I know when we think of education, we think of the academic portion of it, right? Getting our kids to learn. But there's another element and another insight that you can bring to the table. So I want to turn it over to you, and please, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Let's see. Thank you so much, Senator Rubio, for inviting me and letting me give the perspective of a teacher. I wanted to create this presentation with students in mind, of course. So it's called Mindfulness Matters, Tips to Keep Students Happy, Healthy, and Engaged. I came up with a few tips or ideas for parents. The first one is that communication is definitely the most important thing. As teachers, we are a team with parents. We are here, we go into teaching for the love of kids, but we are here for parents and families. We love parents to reach out to us through the platform that your teacher introduces or your school offers, and we always want to hear from you. No question is too silly or too small for us to answer. If there's any changes in something that's going on in the student's life, we'd love to hear about it. And we believe that we need to create a relationship and a bond so that we can help to make your child be successful. Secondly, creating learning space at home is really important. We don't always feel that it needs to be a table and a chair. It's any place that your child feels comfortable and is happy learning at school. We ask, of course, that you keep batteries charged for Chromebooks and things like that so that that Chromebook is working during the day for school. One great idea is to face the child so that their back is towards a wall so we have less distractions. Another idea is to limit background noise. We can get or we can find you schools that provided, teachers have provided headphones, and that really helps to keep distractions down for the students. A third idea is creating routines for kids, even if they're at home. We know this time is a little bit difficult doing a home part-time, school part-time. So if parents can create a bedtime that stays, an alarm clock that wakes the child up, they get breakfast, they get to wash their face, brush their hair, and change into clothes. We think that routines really foster a calmer environment for families who are doing school at home. The fourth idea is increasing physical activity. We all know that children are on screens too much, and screen time is not good. And we would love to see, after that school day is over, shut off the computer, the TV, the iPad, and let's get them up and moving. Get them to walk the family dog or do chores. Get them out in the sunshine, walk as a family to the park and kick a soccer ball around or throw a football around. Sunshine is really important to keep kids happy and healthy. The last one is read. We know as teachers, reading is key, and reading is an essential part of every subject. If a child can read, they can be successful in every subject. We encourage parents to read aloud to their students, have their students read aloud to them, have your student read to you while you're making dinner, have your student read to you while you're driving in the car. Another idea that we love is something that's new kind of to schools are podcasts. Podcasts are a great way to listen to a story, and this certainly can develop the child's imagination and creativity and increase their focus. Next are teacher tips, certainly not new to teachers, but in this new digital way of learning, maybe some ideas to keep teachers on track and then kids happy. The first thing we can introduce is wellness Google Forms. This can be done daily. It can be done weekly. It's just a series of maybe 3 to 5 questions where a child is given the opportunity to let their teacher know how they are doing emotionally. The first question might have, how are you feeling today? And the student can select a happy-faced, a frustrated face, a bored face. And then maybe another question might be, is there anything you want to share with your teacher? An additional question might be, what is your teacher doing? What do you want your teacher to do more of? Or possibly what can be changed during the classes? And I've had great insight from my students, even just saying, can we have 5 more minutes for our break? Or we need longer for the writing time during journal. It's great to listen to students and what they have to say. Integrating music is a second idea to keep your classroom fresh and kids happy and healthy. We know music can change moods and make us all happy. So a great way is to have music playing when they come in the classroom, possibly during journal writing or independent work, or even soft music when we're at a study portion in our classroom. A third idea is using games and competitions to foster learning. Kids love to compete. I think it's very healthy to have a sense of competition between different students. And there's an array of amazing online games that you can actually integrate curriculum, and the students have fun while they're learning. I often do this in my own classroom right before a test, kind of to ease that anxiety. We play a game, and it has some of the questions that might be on the test the following day. A fourth idea is celebrate success. We all work really hard, and especially kids, to point out what they're doing well. Maybe a fun Friday activity. Some of us as teachers, we use this as a discipline tool so the class earns the fun Friday. But in my class, we have a fun Friday every Friday afternoon. I will offer art lessons, music lessons, mindfulness lessons. One time we did a short yoga class. I've taught them breathing techniques. And so it's just a way to come together and bond as a class and say, hey, we made it to Friday. One of the last ideas is a brain break. We know that it's difficult to focus, and especially the little ones, they need them more often, maybe every 15 minutes. Whereas my grade at 6th grade, we do them about every 45 minutes, half an hour to 45 minutes. And this just can be a minute. It can be one yoga pose. It can be dance to this song for 1 minute. It can be do 10 jumping jacks. It can be tell a joke and laugh. So these are great ways to keep kids focused and engaged while they're learning. I've included a few of these ideas on the parent resource page, the teacher page. Here are some of the things I use in my own classroom. And lastly, my contact information if it is needed. And that's my presentation. That ends it.
Thank you so much. I did look at your website. I took a little peek, and my goodness, it's incredible what you've done to that. The reason I wanted to have a teacher's perspective as well as the facilities perspective is that we all understand that COVID-19 is such a scary just topic in general. And for the last entire year, it seems like we were focused on the intensity, the sickness. And so what I wanted to do is shift the conversation a little bit and have our facilities director ease our anxiety about how clean our schools are, the safety measures being implemented. At the same time, I wanted our teacher to share some of those calming exercises. How do we bring anxiety down instead of being always concerned? And so I do have a couple of questions here for both of you. And so maybe we could answer them one each. For Mrs. Macias, and this is probably technical terms that I'm not familiar with, but I'm sure you are. Many of our schools have outdated facilities with windows that do not open and air conditioners that cannot support MERV 13 filters and HEPA filtrations. Most students will not be vaccinated when they return to school buildings. What are you doing to ensure that the air quality in our classrooms will be safe for students and staff? And I apologize if you touched on that, but if you don't mind reiterating.
Sure, no problem. Well, what we are in the process of installing right now are the Air Guardians, which are installed in the majority of classrooms where students are going to be. We procured $500,000 worth. So just to give you an example, at Arroyo High School, we're installing about 83, which covers all of the classrooms. So we're installing them in all of the classrooms. What this system does is it takes in the air, it kills off the pathogens with the UV ray, and it recycles the air. But we are, in addition to that, we are changing the filters to the MERV 13 where it is possible. So the MERV 13 is just a specific type of filter that we have in for our air conditioning units. Some of our units are outdated, but the district actually has been in the process of replacing many of the air conditioning units. So many of them have been updated. We're in the process of changing out those filters, and we're changing out those filters every 3 to 4 months. We're actually in the process of doing that now in preparation for summer school. So I think I answered that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And there's a couple of questions on the teacher's side as it pertains to class size. What can be done to limit the class size with the lower student to teacher ratio at this time during COVID?
That's a great question. What can be done to lower the class size? That's a great question. Well, we have, as according to what I know, as far as our district, we have a certain amount of kids that we can only include in the classroom at this time. So I believe our process was that we asked families and gave them a choice if they wanted to return or not. And I know personally, it's very interesting because each teacher is going to have a different amount of kids. And some teachers at our school have 7 kids returning, which we all wish we could be 7 to 1. But I know I personally have 16 children returning, and that is an amazing amount. So as we see, like I think Tony Thurman mentioned that we're looking at a new way of learning. So I believe that as we see greater success with these smaller groups, even for a small amount of time, that will encourage our districts and our boards to think differently, that 35 to 1 may not be the way to go. And that, we know that teachers can reach more kids if it's a smaller group. So I'm hoping that answered the question. But I think until we do it and we go through the steps of having a smaller group and showing you what we can do as a teacher, that does help us to possibly lower class size in the future. And I know it's much greater than a teacher. I know that comes from laws, down to us. It probably comes from your office down to us, what class size regulation is. That also may be, district to district might vary slightly on that class size issue.
And that is accurate. As we're hearing schools return across the state, everyone's taking a different approach depending on the area. We do have a lot of areas in the Central Valley, some rural communities that are not as impacted, so they're able to go back fully in the classroom. I know what most districts are doing, and this is what I hear, is that they're doing that, giving options to parents, and they have 2 tiered systems. So for example, Group A will come Monday and Tuesday. They use Wednesday to clean, and then Group B will come Thursday and Friday. And so there's so much innovation going on as it pertains to trying to teach and make sure that we minimize the learning loss. I see a lot of questions that are funding specific. So I wanted to share a little bit of SB 86, which was the bill that our superintendent mentioned. This is some funding that is coming to the school districts. So they're going to be able to help with learning loss and facilities. So the bill includes a $2 billion fund for safety measures to support in-person instruction, such as personal protective equipment, ventilation upgrades, and that's what we were discussing right now, COVID-19 testing, while $4.6 billion will fund expanded learning opportunities such as summer school. That's another question that I get often from parents, considering their child is behind, are we going to have summer school? So there is funding coming from the state that will help supplement tutoring and mental health services for students during this time. And also, in order to meet the whole child need, we also are expanding other opportunities by allocating $4.6 billion to local educational agencies based on the equity-based local control funding formula. In addition to also providing $1,000 for each homeless student that comes to your district. So there's many ways that we are collaborating the state, local communities, and our school districts. Again, we've all had to be very innovative and creative, but we're doing the best we can. And I'm so thankful for our school facilities and our teachers who really have stepped up. And, I would have to say I'm a little biased as a teacher. I know we do that on a normal day. I remember being in school until 11 o'clock one day, just trying to get that perfect lesson and make sure everything was ready. And I know teachers do it all the time, but it's really been a little challenging these days. And so I want to thank our teachers, if they are listening, and our school facilities and our administrators for stepping up. This question is for Norma Macias. What investments have our local school districts made in installing permanent mitigation efforts, considering that FEMA is reimbursing 100% of the cost? Have you taken advantage of FEMA reimbursements?
Yes, we have been utilizing some of those funds to purchase the Air Guardian units, which I touched on at the last question. So that is the filtration system. So we will, once we've completed installing all of these units at all of the school sites, we're planning on maybe expanding and installing them in other spaces, such as in locker room areas and gymnasiums, in the cafeterias. But right now, we've been focusing on just installing them in the classrooms.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And I know that our teacher here has given a lot of activities. I know that I have questions as it pertains to how parents can help their students, but you did give quite a bit of resources. If I can kind of be a teacher for 3 seconds, one of the things that I recommended parents really early on is, the anxiety went through the roof. Parents were concerned, students were concerned. And I always encourage, I know I heard our teacher, Ms. Jennifer Veron right now, explain that reading is key. Well, I went the other direction. I encourage parents to have their children write in journals. I always feel we're living through such an extraordinary time, as bad as it is. It's still part of our history. And so I always encourage parents to grab a journal and encourage their child to write every single experience they're having, because they're special. They're the only group, that are going to go through this in their lifetime. And also, I encourage parents to get newspapers and help their child clip little clippings of what's happening as it pertains to vaccines, the pandemic, and just keep a notebook. I always envision a child opening up that notebook 40 years from now when, all this is way behind us. And what an extraordinary thing to be able to go back to a child's mind when they were going through the pandemic and keep it as a journal, as a historical piece of writing that they can share with their children, their grandchildren, when all of us may not be around. But it's just a good way to keep our children engaged in terms of writing, but also keeping them writing their thoughts down also minimizes a little bit of that anxiety. So ladies, both of you have been, really quite, exceptional in what you've been sharing here. We do appreciate your time. And again, I'm very thankful for Mrs. Veron that like I said, I went into your website and you had some meditation. I think you had can you share with me right now? You had a book section called, I think it was Kindness Matters, or books that you recommend. What is your website called in that particular section?
I believe it's called Kindness Matters.
Yes. And so you have a list of recommendations for your parents to be able to pull from. And so I think that's also important when we have our children reading books, that there are books that help us in terms of how we should be dealing with each other. Sometimes because of our anxiety or, how stressful times are, we don't treat each other as kindly as we should. And, I say that as an adult, but our children are having the same anxiety and issues. So, have a list of books that they can read that are positive, talk about, friendship and being kind. And so there's so many resources out there. Also, there's websites. The library is also a great resource to go to. But like I said, Mrs. Macias, thank you for your time. I know that just hearing your perspective and what you're doing for school districts. As a citizen in your community, I feel safer already. And everything you're doing, Mrs. Ferran, as a teacher, I cannot thank you enough. I know that our teachers, administrators, and facility workers are not necessarily being highlighted during this time, but I just want to say we know what you're doing, and we know that you're very valuable to the organizations that you work for, and we cannot thank you enough as a community, as a state. I commend you for the work you're doing. So we are going to move on to our next section, and again, you're welcome to stay, but we really appreciate your time. Now we will be introducing our next guest. And our next guest is Mrs. Moreira. She will be discussing anxiety resulting from COVID-19. Mrs. Moreira is a social worker with Covina Valley Unified School District. As a district social worker, Mrs. Moreira's goal is, her passion is really the well-being of a child, which is something that I discussed earlier. We've had so much anxiety that I wanted to turn a page and make sure that we're calming parents down and giving them strategies. And she's phenomenal. She has a background in social work that includes over 10 years working in positions that provide social and mental health services to children, parents, and young adults. Monica has completed additional training in the fields of parent development, education, child welfare, and related subjects. She holds a master's in social work from California State University, Northridge, and is registered with the Board of Behavioral Sciences. So as I expressed earlier, we always think of the academic, the learning loss section of our children going to school, but there's a whole component about the well-being, not only of the child, but the parent as well. And I think that these are very important discussions to have, because your child may be going through something that, and they may not be able to understand. And even as a parent, you may not be able to understand. But I'm going to turn it over to this phenomenal social worker that will go through some of these strategies that you may be able to implement with your child. So welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Senator Susan Rubio. I'm glad to be here, and I will be sharing my screen to offer a presentation on managing anxiety right now and how to support our students and our families. Okay, so I wanted to focus today on managing and coping with feeling anxious. To begin, clinical depression and anxiety are a mental health problem that require professional diagnosis and treatment. So I really want to focus a little bit more on anxiety symptoms and not specifically related to the clinical diagnosis. Our agenda today is to go over some stress and anxiety symptoms, strategies to manage stress, and building your resilience. So I put this here because I think that it's a good reminder that there is support around you. I want to take this opportunity to kind of remind you that one of the ways that we can all be resilient is by being resourceful and looking for that support that's available to us. Maybe as parents and teachers and staff members or community members who are listening here today, it's important to kind of visit your district's website and see what support is available for you. I know at Covina Valley, our counselors, our middle school and high school counselors have done a phenomenal job of developing these wellness websites and centers on campus where they can provide resources to students, parents, and guardians. They can also provide an opportunity for students and parents and guardians to complete referrals in order for them to request for a check-in or additional support. We have our school psychologists who provide some social and emotional support to students, grief support groups for students who have lost family members due to COVID, and district social workers who also connect students to mental health support and individual counseling services. We also provide virtual social activities so that students still feel like they're engaging in peer activities, and provide resources and referrals. So I just want to remind everyone to really, I would say, start at the district to see what services and resources are provided. So our communities have experienced widespread health concerns from experiencing the global pandemic. It is still affecting the way that we function and operate as a society. Individuals have also gone through a period of isolation from their immediate families and community and large groups, large events, schools, the way that community events are available to us now. So in addition, families have experienced financial insecurities as a result of some of the changes within our economy and our community and the ways that we can earn a living. There's been some violence witnessed in our communities and through media sources, as well as a feeling of social inequities, which may cause a visceral feeling for many. And lastly, due to all of these experiences, our youth and our families have experienced significant loss. And all of those complexities require us to go through that normal process of grief. So I know that we want to discuss anxiety and how to manage those symptoms, but it's important to also focus on the grief that we are all experiencing. Related to anxiety, I want to discuss how the CDC reports that anxiety disorders have been the most common diagnosed mental illness in adults and college students. The proportion of mental health related visits to the emergency room for children ages 5 to 11 and 12 to 17 have increased by 24 and 31% from 2019. So these challenging circumstances are all difficult for our students and our families and our community members to go through. Let's kind of visit what the grief process looks like in order to kind of understand how each of us process that and how to better understand those that are affected by grief and loss. So just to go over grief and loss, there's two types of loss. There's expected loss, which is part of the human life experience. And then there's unexpected loss, which is not something that we can expect. So for example, a parent taking their 5-year-old to elementary school is going through an expected loss of their student no longer being at home with them. Or if their student graduates at 18 years old and goes off to college or moves out of the home to start a living on their own and living independently, that is an expected loss. An unexpected loss would be something more related to if you were an athlete who played soccer and suddenly had an unexpected serious injury where you can no longer play a sport that you were passionate about. The different types of losses could be a loved one, but what most people don't also realize is also the loss of health and the loss of self-esteem. Here I included a roadmap of the process of the stages of grief. And I wanted to show it as an arrow climbing up because I do feel like once you have gone to the stage of acceptance, that is where you have now arrived at coping with your loss. And it's not always a steady climb up, which is why I give you that example of a different type of roadmap. But each of these stages are denial, anger, bargaining, and acceptance. Depression is listed there because I want to share that anger inward can come out as depression and anger outward can come out as aggression. But nonetheless, they're both an example of a stage in the grieving process. Other examples of unexpected loss could be divorce or illness. And I also want to share that it's not a linear steady climb. So just because this arrow is going through these stages, not everyone goes through these stages, and not everyone goes through these stages in this particular way. So when we discuss stress symptoms, it can look very different for older adults, for adults, and for children and teens. When we look at our families and how they've been affected by some of these difficult challenges that we have faced, it's important to look at how they can affect us and in different ways that they affect us. So for example, if you have a child who has been returning back to in-school learning and suddenly has some sleep disturbances, or is coming back from, in-school learning and stating that they're not really hungry and their appetite has changed, that's a good opportunity to sit and check in with your students to see if some of this has been affecting them and creating stress. And by talking to them, you can identify if maybe some individual check-ins or some of the suggestions that were offered earlier, like taking a walk with the dog or taking a walk in the park, or maybe spending some one-on-one time with that particular child or student, can really help to relieve some of those symptoms that they're experiencing. And then for adults, some examples could be headaches, upset stomach, muscle aches, nervousness, or even difficulty relaxing. Okay. I want to begin here with empathy. I know that it's something that is widely spoken about, shared, but it's important to kind of visit it, because once we really put ourselves in someone else's shoes, we can begin to understand what they are going through and how it is impacting them. So there's no playbook for maintaining emotional health during a global pandemic, right? And people have been struggling, but we can start with compassionate ways to communicate with our family, friends, and community. Some of these tips can include giving your full attention. That means listening with our ears, eyes, and our gut instinct. The gut instinct is to make sure that you're understanding the entire message. Does what they say match their body language? Are they ashamed, scared, or angry? And it's important to avoid arguing or disputing facts. For example, if you're checking in with your child and he says, "Oh, I've just had the worst week ever," and we want to take that opportunity to remind them, "Well, I heard you, playing that video game with your friend. You seem to be having a lot of fun." Well, it's not a time when you're expressing empathy. It's not a time to really dispute facts. It's just a listening moment. And then consider other people's perspective. Placing too much emphasis on your own assumptions and beliefs doesn't leave much space for empathy. Think of the old saying, before you criticize someone, walk a mile in their shoes. And then you can take action. Demonstrate your compassion and empathy. Remember, empathy is not about what you want, but about what the other person wants and needs to hear from you. So when we think about stress and anxiety for our students, schools have been diligently scheduling parent meetings to discuss what returning to campus will look like in order to support and address parents' concerns. So some of the concerns that have been widely spoken about have been reintroducing students to campus, some of the health and safety concerns that they may have, and engaging with peers or academic expectations. So communication is very important. Having these conversations with students helps emotionally and developmentally prepare them for these changes. You can take that opportunity to ask questions to your student. What are you looking forward to the most about coming back on campus? What are you not looking forward to? And then this kind of question and answer opportunity allows a space for the student to really express their thoughts. We don't always have to have the right answers, but giving them a space to communicate their feelings really does go a long way. It's a great way to also address questions about engaging with friends. Some students may have stress or anxiety about being around other students or being around other students and having to follow COVID protocols. I also want to address the importance of just being mindful that some students may be really apprehensive about being around other students or individuals because maybe they've lost a loved one due to COVID. So it's important that we acknowledge that they may have sincere worries and fears. Reminding them of the safety measures and the school's protocols can be a great way to validate their worries and concerns, but also let them know that their safety and well-being is such a concern to us that we have taken steps to make them feel safe at school, and that these worry feelings can take time to go away, but that we're here to support them until we get to that point together. Parents can also continue supporting their students by checking in with their children. This is a collective trauma that we have all been going through. By checking in with your student, you can identify signs or symptoms that something is wrong, such as isolation, irritability, lack of motivation, concerns about safety. Consider having these conversations with them to identify some of these symptoms, and then seeking professional support if you require it. So a good step one check-in could be checking in with your school. I've noticed these changes in my student. Have you noticed them in class? Have they stopped engaging with peers or with their academics? Once you've kind of discussed that, then you can seek what support is available to your student at that particular school or within your district. And maybe also get connected to resources outside of the school, such as in the community. With regard to families, there have been a lot of changes that families have been doing such an amazing job to step up to. So, we've adjusted to remote work and learning. We've, reintegrated back to in-person to some degree. We've been concerned about our students' academics. We've been worried about how they're socializing and if they're going to be able to socialize. These have been some of my own concerns with my individual students or with my personal children. And then their grades, also how this different format could be impacting them. So it took some time to adjust to remote learning, right? So it's important to understand that it's going to also take us time to navigate through this transition and to essentially allow a transitional period for us to adjust to back to in-person learning in the different formats that are available according to your district. We can plan and prepare for a smooth transition, but embrace the hiccups along the way. Our students' academics are important to the student, to the family, and the school. It's a collective goal for student success. We have to set realistic expectations and avoid overburdening or putting pressure on the student if they have struggled through virtual learning. The stability families provide by being present and predictable as much as possible can really support students during the transition to in-person learning. This is also a great opportunity to model for your student being flexible and adaptable during an adverse situation. This is what builds resilience. Children learn to overcome obstacles through also watching how their family overcomes difficult times. I can't stress how many times, I've met with students and they often share how they've seen their parents overcome different difficult times in their life. And they really look to that as a great model for, or an empowering moment for how they can overcome a struggle that they're going through. So for our schools also, I included them because I think that this has been a stressful transition for our schools and for school staff. And they may have their own health concerns and, let alone the navigating virtual to hybrid platforms. And then also maybe some concerns related to how they can support their students in their classroom and any social and emotional needs that are presented. So I want to remind, our school personnel of the beginning of the school year and how that can be anxiety producing for educators and staff. So it doesn't really matter if you've been working as a teacher for years or this is your first year teacher. I believe that oftentimes you kind of have some anxiety, normal level of anxiety, worried about the first day of school. So I think that's a great opportunity to remind you of, those small steps that you do take when it's the first day of school, and not applying so much emphasis or pressure on, overperforming or focusing on getting all the students caught up within that small window. It's a good idea to really support the students by going back to those steps that you normally take, icebreakers, getting to know your students, teaching them again how to navigate through the classroom and the campus. It's going to look different than what they were used to in the past. So it's a great opportunity to kind of take baby steps, so to speak. And also, you can, by doing this, you can also really help your students sort of mirror the routine that has been established through virtual learning in this hybrid platform. It's a routine that they've already been accustomed to and adapted to. So that can help with the transition as well. Managing student behaviors can be difficult for educators. We know that. The opportunity to support your students in the classroom means that you're able to also really identify if there are struggles in learning because maybe some social or emotional needs are not being met. And I think that given this opportunity for us to have smaller classroom sizes really gives, that window for you to be able to identify if there is a need and then voice that concern to parents in a very thoughtful and respectful manner. They may share those same concerns at home. And so I think when we all come from a place of compassion and empathy, we can really support our students. And by sharing this information, you can contact your school, your administrator, and refer a student for maybe some mental health counseling check-ins or some social learning skills support groups. And then that way, we can make sure that the student is receiving the adequate support that they need during this transition, because we have all been going through unprecedented times. So maybe where a student had been coping in the past or suddenly went through a difficult time, now we're able to provide that support that you may need as it has, presented itself during this sort of episodic moment. Some strategies to manage stress. So step one is awareness. Finding out how this stress is showing up in your body. So for example, stress can impact the way we feel, but also our health. If you're someone who has asthma, you may realize that you're starting to need a little bit more albuterol than you are accustomed to. Or if you're diabetic, you may find that your sugar has been running high. So stress can show up in different ways for each of us, and it's important to identify how it impacts your particular body. The other thing you can do is make a plan for managing your stress. It's important to make sure that it's realistic, and you can make a list of how you're going to combat your stress. And by making a list, it's important to address the 6 categories of stress management. So for one, finding your supportive relationships. This also applies for our youth and our students. Maybe a student that's going back to in-person learning really likes their teacher that they had last year or a couple years ago. By knowing that that teacher is going to be on campus to kind of wave hello to in the morning or wave goodbye to, or seeing your principal, that is a trusted adult on campus. It's important for students to know who their supportive relationships are, whether they're friends or trusted adults, because it could be someone that can really support their needs during stressful moments. Another thing is exercise, being able to, get our endorphins out, take those walks. Exercise really does help manage stress. Healthy sleep habits. with virtual learning, things have been a little bit difficult at times. So, I mean, a little bit more flexible at times. So when we're asleep, we may be finding that through virtual learning, our sleep habits have been all over the place. So it's really an important thing to do with your students to help them manage their sleep routine. And then that way, when they are off to school, they kind of feel better. They've been well rested. Another thing is nutrition. Eating a well-balanced diet can really help them with their learning. And then mental health and behavioral support. If they do have counseling, checking back into their counselor. Many counselors, even in the community, such as therapists, have all adopted a telehealth format. And if they haven't, you can identify different support in the community that has that format if you do have some apprehensions about allowing providers in your home or you going out into the community to visit providers. And I heard the conversation earlier about mindfulness. Mindfulness is a great skill to practice. It's sort of like meditation or prayer, but it's a moment where you can slow down and take deep breaths and just have sort of a quiet moment where you hone in on the here and now and clear your mind. This is a great skill to practice to manage stressful situations. Building resilience. So when we feel flooded with negative thoughts, it's important to own them. I know that sounds a little bit silly, but when you're having these negative feelings, sometimes when you say your thought out loud and talk through them, they lose their power. State your negative thought. Think about where it stems from. And now challenge yourself by offering 3 positive alternative thoughts. Challenging negative thoughts is a great skill to practice for adults and for adolescents and older children. It's part of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is evidence-based. So stating your negative thoughts and then challenging them by offering 3 positive alternatives. Another thing is gratitude. It helps us build resilience. It helps us to see the positive things in life in light of the difficult circumstances that we may be experiencing. Okay. So I thank you all for this opportunity to share and welcome any questions.
That was a great presentation. Thank you so very much. Even your voice is calming to me, so thank you. Right now, we have a few questions, but before we move forward, understanding how traumatic this last year has been on our youth, there are a couple of bills that are moving through the legislature that want to provide mental health services in schools. So currently I'm a co-author to SB 14 with Senator Portantino, which requires that local educational agencies identify evidence-based training for staff and teachers as it pertains to youth behavioral health, 10th to 12th grade, the older grades. We also have SB 224. I'm also a co-author with Senator Portantino, which requires schools to provide medically accurate and age-appropriate mental health services to students from 1st grade to 12th grade. And there is 15 more, but again, it's hard to get ahead because we're currently in the legislative year and we have to get them through committees. We have to get them out of committees to take them to the Senate floor. So it's a long process and they may change along the way, but please know that your legislators, just in general in California, we're working really hard to provide services in schools. We know that the learning loss is one factor, but the mental health services are going to be even more significant this year. Students have been home, and I know as a teacher, a lot of the times our students relied on our school day to feel like they had a home environment. Sometimes children would come to my classroom hungry and I would have to provide food. And so we know that the circumstance at home is not always the ideal. And so I imagine we're going to see a lot of that as well, where children are disconnected and been isolated. So we're a team in this effort, and hopefully we will continue to provide services. But thank you for that great presentation. I do have a question that came in. How are the social workers helping the school psychologists in addressing students' well-being? Now, you went really in depth as to what you would do, and I'm not sure if you can address that question, but are you connected to school districts, and what services are you directly providing to school districts?
Yes, I can speak to our school district at Covina Valley Unified School District. We work very closely with our school psychologists. We receive referrals through our psychologists for youth they believe would benefit from mental health support. We also work in collaboration to organize social emotional groups or to even develop social skills related to their mental health. We've even utilized our evidence-based curriculum and sort of made it digital and shared it with all our school psychs, so that if they are providing social emotional support to students, they have a format that is ready and able to, work for them in this virtual format. We also work along with our academic counselors and school psychs to work as a collaborative team for crisis support and grief support to our students and families. Outside of this global pandemic, things happen in our communities or students in our communities. And we are in a social network age. So oftentimes when one student experiences something tragic, it gets trickled down through the rest of the students. And it's important that we as a collaborative, multidisciplinary team can jump into that school site and really provide that mental health support to our students as check-ins.
Thank you. And I know you're not here to diagnose or give anybody advice, but someone wanted to know if you have just maybe quick 3-4 tips to know if someone's experiencing depression due to the social isolation.
Yes, that's very difficult to, diagnose. I know that there's a lot of information out there. Clinical depression is something that is diagnosed based on a clinical assessment scale. But there are circumstances that can cause a normal level of depressive symptoms, like loss of appetite. So loss of appetite, loss of sleep, no longer engaging in the things that you used to, lack of motivation to do the things that you used to really like to do. I would say if you have not connected to a resource out in the community, your first step would be really to talk to your medical provider, because a doctor does have access to some of those BSAT scales that can really assess if depression is a concern. And I would start there only because I also am concerned. I also am wary of the risk factors in our youth right now with suicidality and other such concerns. So it's important to just speak to a mental health provider if you can. If you cannot, at least speak to your medical provider.
Well, thank you for that. And, I guess we could also say that of children, because I know as an educator, we always look for those changing signs of a child withdrawing, changing their patterns, not engaging as normally with their peers. Just any change in behavior could be just a sign that, maybe we need to take them to the doctor and see if there are any recommendations. Thank you so much, Monica, for such an incredible presentation. And my hope was, like I said, we've dealt with so much trauma and ugliness, I would say, this last year, that I really just wanted to start shifting the way we start thinking about things, trying to really start looking at positive ways to engage with our community, our children, our schools, and really be a little bit more patient as we reopen schools with our teachers. I have to say, I've had many parents call me in the past year and thanking me for educating their kids in the past years. They realize what a difficult task that was when they had their children at home. And I've had so many wonderful little notes saying, thank you, Ms. Rubio, for the years of education. I mean, the reality is that, at any given point, we always have, 20 to 35 children, depending on what grade level it is. And now, not only on top of that, now we have the pandemic and trying to reopen schools safely. And so teachers are having to adjust, as well as children are having to adjust, and just a little bit more patience as we move through our reopening of schools and society, the economy. Our teacher here, Jennifer, stated we need to practice mindfulness, which is key. I have to admit, I'm guilty of sometimes just moving along with a lot of work that I have and responsibilities that I have, and we forget to slow down, take stock of where we're at, emotionally. And I think all the wonderful recommendations you provided today really, at least were helpful to me. I hope parents are listening. I hope teachers are listening. And again, it's just about how do we move in a more mindful way where we're treating each other with a little bit more respect, really asking the question, are you okay? Can I help you? Sometimes we move through life so quickly that we don't stop to acknowledge when we see someone struggling. And that's also part of what we have to relearn as society, to stop and ask, are you okay? And so I want to just thank all my wonderful panelists, from our superintendent, Tony Thurman, who took time out of his busy schedule to visit with us and give us some really critical information. Our panelist, Norma Macias, who gave us the perspective of facilities and what they're doing to open in a safe manner, so parents can feel confident that schools are very committed to ensuring that all precautions are taken for your child to be safe. Our teacher, who gave us that teacher perspective and things that we can do to help our child re-enter the classroom, reunite themselves with their friends, and really navigate the school system in a way that is productive and healthy. To Monica, who was incredible in giving us her recommendation, her perspective as a mental health professional. I think that it's extremely valuable. Again, I'm not here to be a doctor or give you any medical advice, but these were all suggestions you can take and really implement with your child. I wanted to remind anyone listening that this is being recorded, so you will be able to replay this in the future. And I also wanted to share that we did have quite a bit of questions and we weren't able to get to all of them. And as I was sorting out the questions, there's a lot of district-specific questions that only your district can answer, but we will do our very best to call the district and try and find that information for you. I do have a number. Our district number is 626-430-2499. Once again, 626-430-2499, and we will try again to connect you with resources and help you in any way we can. I want to extend my gratitude to our Senate staff who's running this program, my staff, the district staff who worked really hard in putting this together. My staff member is also a teacher, special ed teacher. Sandra Lopez Armenta, who taught for many years, also understands the teacher perspective. And so to everyone that made this possible, we want to thank you. And I hope that we could all be just a little mindful as we move through life. And really thank you to my guest. And I hope you have a safe evening. And this concludes our presentation. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. Really appreciate it.